And we are going to get started, but before that, we have some student entertainment as well. And so could everybody please rise for the presentation of the colors?
Morning, testing. Okay. How about one more round of applause for our students? We are so thankful for Columbus Public Schools and the support that they give us in showcasing our student talent. Good morning, my name is Tondo Malseo, and I am the president of the Ohio Alliance of Black School Educators, the immediate past NABSE Midwest Region representative. I am so excited to see all of you here this morning, this very early morning. Thank you for coming out. Today, we're going to open the conference with our keynote speaker. What I'd like to do now is introduce our Midwest Region representative, Dr. Yvonne Stokes, come on.
All right, good morning. Good morning. You know, my team always know I say we can do better than this. Good morning. Good morning. We rose this morning, we have breath, right? We can walk, we can talk. We have something to praise about. So good morning. Thank you all for being here at this wonderful conference led by our Tondo Malseo for representing NABSE, but this is for Midwest. So everybody say Midwest Conference. All right, we thank you for being here. But without further ado, we want to bring up my wonderful friend, Gloria. She's going to introduce our guest speaker. Thank you all.
Good morning as well, and welcome to the NABSE Midwest Regional Conference. Have you enjoyed yourselves thus far? Okay, well, maybe you didn't. You didn't sound like you did. Have you enjoyed yourselves thus far? Okay. We have had a wonderful start yesterday with a parent summit, aspiring superintendent summit, aspiring principal summit. So things are moving well, and we will be so pleased with the rest of today and tomorrow. So listen, learn, and enjoy. I have the distinct pleasure this morning as the president of the Illinois Alliance of Black School Educators. Where are my Illinois people? I've got people from Illinois. There we go. Thank you. To introduce our fantastic speaker this morning. And you are in for a very special treat. I have looked at some of his work, and I tell you, congratulations, and you're going to be well pleased. Okay, I have the distinct pleasure then of introducing Dr. Chike Akua, I practiced that name, who is a former Teacher of the Year with over 30 years in the field of education and one of the most sought-after speakers at urban schools, colleges, universities, and educational conferences. He is also the creator of Reading Revolution Online. Remember that, Reading Revolution Online. And it is a culturally relevant, interactive, web-based academic support tool that increases reading comprehension, vocabulary development, grammar, and writing skills. Lord knows we need that in this day and age. Dr. Akua is also an associate professor of educational leadership at Clark Atlanta University. Clark Atlanta. He serves as a leadership strategist at urban schools, colleges, and universities nationally. So he is very sought after. As an internationally recognized thought leader, Dr. Akua is the author of 13 books. His most recent releases are Education for Transformation, The Keys to Releasing the Genius of Black Students, 2nd edition, Parent Power, The Key to Your Child's Academic and Social Services, 2nd edition, and Honoring Our Ancestral Obligations, 7 Steps to Black Student Success, revised and edited, 4th edition. Each of these are used in a number of urban schools, districts, and universities and colleges for professional development. Dr. Akua's work as an educational leader and scholar has been featured in the Washington Post, Black Enterprise, and Ebony magazine. He earned his bachelor's degree in education from Hampton University, yay to Hampton, Atlanta University, and his doctorate from Georgia State University, my alma mater for my daughter. He resides just outside of Atlanta, Georgia, and you can learn more from him by going to his website, readingrevolution.org. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming to the Midwest Alliance Conference, Dr. Akua. Please come forward.
Everybody say, it's our time. It's our time. Come on, it's our time. It's our time. It's our season. It's our season. No limits. No boundaries. I see blessings all around me. No limits. No boundaries. I see blessings all around me. Give yourselves a wonderful round of applause. A great African-American educator by the name of Dr. Benjamin E. Mays said, it's 11:59 on the clock of destiny. And life is like a minute, only 60 seconds in it. Forced upon you, can't refuse it. Didn't seek it, didn't choose it, but it's up to you to use it. You'll suffer if you lose it, give account if you abuse it. It's only a minute, but eternity is in it. And with that minute, you, me, and we can change and transform the world. Now, if you really believe that we in this place today can change and transform the world, would everyone please say Ashe? Ashe. Got to be stronger than that. Ashe? Ashe. That's better. See, Ashe means I agree. This West African word means let it be so. But it also represents the activating energy and the presence of the Spirit that is both within us and around us at all times. So I'm going to use that word Ashe as a call and response today. When I say something that I want you to remember, I'm going to use that word Ashe and have you to repeat it after me. When I say something I definitely don't want you to forget, I'm going to use that word Ashe and have you to repeat it after me. But you don't have to wait until I say it. If I say something that leads to an instant awakening, if I say something that taps your spirit or touches your soul, then you can say Ashe, and that lets me know we're all on the same page. Ashe? Now, here's the thing, everybody. I understand that may be a new word. You may not be familiar with that, and that's all right. But the bottom line is I'm going to need your input in this word today. So if you don't feel comfortable saying Ashe, you can say, okay. You can say, go ahead, brother, teach, preach, something. But I'm going to need some feedback this morning. Ashe? All right. Let me tell you what a wonderful, thank you so much, a wonderful honor, privilege, and blessing it is to be here with you at the NABSE Midwest Conference. At this day and at this time in our nation's history and in our people's history, I can't think of a better place to be. Ashe? Ashe. So let me first bring you greetings from Clark Atlanta University, one of our great HBCUs, where I'm honored to serve on the faculty in the Department of Educational Leadership. And some of you, I'm sure, are probably ready to start working on your doctorate, so a shameless plug, I'd like to invite you to apply to our online doctorate in ed leadership program. Ashe? So see me afterwards if you're interested in that. Let me also bring you greetings from the Teacher Transformation Institute, where we use standards-based, research-driven, culturally relevant instructional strategies to increase student success. Now, those are just a bunch of big-sounding words to say that our children are brilliant. Ashe? But many of them are in schools and school districts where they're seen as a problem rather than as people. And so the members of our team go into these schools and school districts, and we do professional development. We produce culturally relevant materials, large group instruction, social emotional learning focus groups. But y'all don't have any students that need social emotional learning, do you? Okay. Strategic planning and even model teaching lessons. Ashe? Take a look at these wonderful faces on the screen, because my deepest and most fervent prayer is that you will have the same smile on your face by the time we're finished this morning. I had the opportunity to train very diverse groups of teachers and leaders around the country. And in the process of doing so, we get to see what's going on the ground level, and we present directly to students as well. But I hope that you'll have the same smile on your face by the time that we're finished this morning. It's customary when we come together as a people that we begin by giving honor to the Most High, who is known by many names and worshiped in many ways, certainly the one source and the one force through which we all live, move, and have our being. Ashe? We also give honor to our ancestors because there's an African proverb which says, if we stand tall, it is because we stand on the shoulders of our ancestors. Or as Dr. Jacob Carruthers has said, indeed our stride is wide because we're walking in the footsteps of giants. Ashe? One of the giants in whose footsteps I'm attempting to walk and on whose shoulders I'm endeavoring to stand tall is someone who poured a great deal into NABSE over the years. As a matter of fact, he invited me to present with him 20 years ago at NABSE at the national conference in Detroit. And that's none other than Nana Bafora Amakwechi II, also known as Dr. Asa Hilliard III. Ashe? And I made him a promise that I would continue what he had begun. And then I just received word yesterday, I want to give honor to another ancestor who has just crossed over. I just recently received word yesterday that our dear brother, Dr. Juwanza Kanjufu, transitioned earlier this week. And we know that starting in the 1980s, he was a trailblazer, writing books like Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys in 4 different volumes, and really heightened our awareness to our responsibility as black educators. Ashe? And so we pray that the Most High and the ancestors will welcome him with open arms into peace and paradise and eternity. Ashe? All right. If you have your phone this morning, would you hold your phone up, please? If you have your phone, hold it up in the air, wave it like you just don't get, no, I'm just kidding. But you're going to need your phone today. We need some social media volunteers because the information I'm going to share this morning, I have some pictures and images that I want to share with you, and they're so important because I believe that we need to take this local event, this regional event, and make it a global event. And we can do that if you take pictures and images and short video clips of what you're about to experience right now. Ashe? And post it to your social media platform of choice. You can even tag me on it if you would like, but definitely I'm sure that you're going to see some things that you will find interesting. Ashe? All right. I'm going to be talking today from 2 of my books, Education for Transformation, The Keys to Releasing the Genius of African American Students, and Honoring Our Ancestral Obligations, 7 Steps to Black Student Success. You've heard it said before that a picture is worth what, everybody? 1,000 words, and that's very true, but you can't just look with your 2 physical eyes. You have to look with what ancient Africans called the ujat. Everybody say ujat. Some people call it the 3rd eye, but really it's the 1st eye, the eye of intuition, the eye of all-seeing enlightenment that allows us to see beyond the physical realm and into the mental and spiritual dimensions. Even as the great poet Listervelt Middleton said, sharpen your eye and tune your ears so you know what you see and understand what you hear. If y'all are ready to get started, everybody say, let's go. Let's go. All right, I'm going to count down from 5. When I get to 1, I want everybody to stand up straight, strong, and tall. Here we go. 5, 4. Yeah, some of y'all need to start moving now. 3, 2, and 1. Here we go. Repeat after me, please. I'm a student seeking to be a scholar.
I'm a student seeking to be a scholar.
The standard is excellence today and tomorrow.
Standard is excellence today and tomorrow.
I am disciplined, focused, and on time.
I am disciplined, focused, and on time.
I am organized, respectful, and responsible.
I am organized, respectful, and responsible.
I am on a mission to elevate myself,
I am on a mission to elevate myself,
my family, my community, and humanity. All right, give yourselves a wonderful round of applause as you take your seats. Education for Transformation, the keys to releasing the genius of African American students. Well, there it is, y'all. 33 years ago, I started on this journey. Yes, I did have hair, as you can see in the picture. And you can see that I'm locked in, right? I'm ready to get into the classroom to impact and deeply transform the lives of my students. And so much has happened over the past 3+ decades. And we've seen some very interesting things occur, most especially in the last few months. Ashe? Ashe. Okay. But I'll never forget the day that I decided to declare my major in college. You see, I I remember these 4 magic words. I was called into my counselor's office in my sophomore year. And he asked me, what do you want to major in? And that's when I uttered these 4 magic words. I had no idea what I was saying, no idea what it would lead me to. But these 4 magic words transformed the trajectory of my life. And those 4 magic words were simply this: I want to teach. Ashe? I had no idea where that would lead me. I just knew that I wanted to go back and reach young people who were just like me, who had tremendous potential, because when I was in high school, I had a 1.9 GPA. Now, you know, usually when I share that with audience, there's a gasp or something like, not you, Dr. Akua, but y'all looking at me like, yeah, you look pretty dumb to me. Wait a minute, let me try that again. At one time, I had a 1.9 GPA. Oh, y'all need to work on that. Y'all need to work on that. Y'all need to work on that. I wasn't feeling that. But I underwent a dramatic transformation in my life that ultimately led from a 1.9 to a 3.9. Please give it up for a brother, right? But my passion as an educator is fueled by what I experienced when I was an underperforming student. Because inside of this 55-year-old man is a 17-year-old boy who is scared. And he's underperforming. And he's very timid and he's very shy, not outspoken at all. And knowing what I know now about mental health, I can actually say was experiencing some anxiety and depression. Ashe? But I'm so glad that somebody came along and saw something more in me that I didn't even see in myself. Ashe? Would you raise your hand if somebody saw something more in you that you didn't even see in yourself? Keep your hand up, look around the room. Put up another hand if it was more than one person who saw something in you that you didn't see in yourself. Ashe? Ashe. And we have to be those kind of educators today. I travel a lot, and I do about 20 to 25 cities per year. Several of those cities 2 to 3 times per year. And so I'm in and out of the airports, and one thing they always tell you, always see the signs of Homeland Security, Ashe? And they always say, if you see something, say something. And I apply that to education because I've seen some things in education. And I've got to say some things this morning, Ashe? And one of the things that I've seen is the nation's report card, the National Assessment of Educational Progress. And recently, it said that in 2024, black students had an average score that was 24 points lower than for white students. Ashe? Now, one thing I've learned over the years from Dr. Asa Hilliard is when you talk about achievement gaps, we need to talk about access gaps, not achievement gaps. Ashe? And what we're comparing is not black student achievement to white student achievement, because white student achievement is mediocre at best. Ashe? Y'all didn't hear me there. Let me say it like this. We're not comparing black student achievement to white student achievement. We're comparing current black student achievement to black excellence. Are you with me? Let's be very clear about that. And so how is it that this gap has persisted for over 30 years when we know what it takes to reach our children? Ashe? I wrote about this back in 2023 in a special report called Dismantling the Preschool to Prison Pipeline that I was commissioned to write for the Wayfinder Foundation. So this gap has been going on for quite some time, and you get so used to it, you begin to experience what Dr. Joyce King called disconsciousness. Everybody say disconsciousness. Disconsciousness is an uncritical habit of mind that accepts the status quo as a given. Oh, well, yeah, you know, these students, that's just how they normally perform. Oh, those students over there, they don't normally score high. That's just how it is with that group of students. No. Outstanding educators don't accept that. Ashe? Disconsciousness is a cognitive impairment resulting from miseducation. And we can do better than that. Turn to your neighbor and say, we can do better than that. And so Dr. Hilliard said the achievement gap should be thought of as the gap between current performance of black children and levels of excellence. But what is education for transformation? I don't want to assume that we're all operating from the same definition, so I created my own. Education for Transformation is the process of recapturing and practicing the African and the African American tradition of educational excellence. Only one problem. Most people have never been taught the African or the African American tradition of educational excellence. And what's so deep about that is we have the longest track record in the world of educational excellence. And when I look in the faces of our children, brothers and sisters, I begin with my initial premise, and that is this, that our children are chosen. Everybody say our children are chosen. You see, I believe our children are chosen for three things, everybody: greatness, excellence, and achievement. What are those things? Greatness, excellence, and achievement. But we live in a society that seems to have chosen them for something else. We live in a society that has gangsterized and criminalized our young black males and hypersexualized our young black females, Ashe, where they're seen as objects of sexual pleasure rather than subjects worthy of dignity and respect. But I understand that our children are chosen for what? Greatness, excellence, and achievement. And those who think our children can't be reached have never seen a master teacher teach. I'm going to say that again. Those who think, because they make it sound as if the problems in our schools are so intractable that nothing can be done. No, those who think our children can't be reached have never seen a master teacher teach. Ashe? And I say this as one who has taught middle school, taught at all levels, and one year even had 22 out of my 24 students in homeroom had parole officers. Ashe? So I don't want you to think I'm talking about something that I don't know about. All right? But then we have to ask the question, how can we have equity when some have attempted to erase the knowledge of past inequity? Ashe? But not only that, as I said earlier, we have the longest track record going back thousands of years of African excellence in education and in science and in every discipline under the sun. Ashe? But then not only did we do that in Africa, we did that all over the world, and certainly when we came to America. But then look at what begins to happen when we're not active in the way that we should be. Oh my goodness. Do you see what's happening? We are the ones that gave the world reading and writing and language and literature, architecture and engineering, agriculture and astronomy, philosophy and physics, mathematics and medicine, science and technology. But then they attempt to erase our history, and we cannot stand by and let that happen. Ashe? Damn. Do you understand what has transpired in the last few months? Do you understand our responsibility as educators when we walk in that school building and what we must do to make sure that our children don't forget who they are and understand their culture, their heritage, and their history at the same time while we're in a society that is attempting to completely erase it? Ashe? Dr. Joyce King said, whose knowledge is worth knowing? Whose knowledge is worth knowing? Look at this painting and what's happening in this picture. The artist Jonathan Harris is showing the whitewashing of our history. And we can't stand by and allow that to happen. Ashe? So we're living in a time that requires tremendous moral courage. They didn't hear me, Brother Tonda. They didn't hear me. I said we're living in a time that requires tremendous moral courage. I tell people that I spent more time in the principal's office than some of my troubled students because I was constantly infusing our culture and our history into my language arts classroom. But what they could never say is that I didn't get results. Ashe? Because I was getting results that they couldn't produce. They didn't like what I was teaching, but the students listened to me and wouldn't listen to them. The students respected me and didn't respect them. Ashe? We're living in a time that requires tremendous moral courage for us to do what we must do. And then there's an African proverb that says, when the music changes, so does the dance. Ashe? Now, what does that mean? That means we have to be wise in the way that we reach and meet the needs of our students. We have to be very thoughtful and be very careful in the way that we do things. As a teacher, people often would ask me, how are you able to operate? How do you even still have a job doing the things that you're doing? And that is because I was very strategic in what I did. I wrote my lesson plans. I wrote what needed to be seen. I put down the standards, all those different types of things. And then when I closed the door, they don't understand what I'm saying. They don't get it. When I closed the door, I gave my students what they needed, and what they needed was their history and their culture infused into everything, Ashe. But you can't teach what you don't know. So not only did I do that, I had to come face to face with my own personal miseducation and re-educate myself so that I could properly educate our children. Is this making sense this morning? Would you raise your hand if you're learning something this morning? Let me just see a show of hands. Keep your hands up. Look around the room. Now put up another hand if you know some other educators who need to be here right now. Lord, I keep your hand up. Look around the room. I see somebody in the back waving a foot too. That's all right. We're going to get them here next year, right? When the music changes, so does the dance. Let's go a little further. I also learned that culture is the key. The critical mediating factor in increasing engagement and achievement among African American students. But what is culture? Dr. Wade Nobles, psychologist, tells us that culture provides a general design for living and patterns for interpreting reality. A general design for living. The general design for living that I came up under was faith in God, hard work, and education. A lot of folk ain't coming up under that general design today. Patterns for interpreting reality. Some of our children are misinterpreting reality today. Ashe? He also tells us culture is to humans as water is to fish. One more time. Culture is to humans as water is to fish. But take a look at this now. What happens when a fish is out of water? A fish can only last so long out of water. And this is exactly what's happening to so many of our children in many of these schools, where they are deculturalized, Ashe, and kept from their authentic culture. I oftentimes ask young people and adults alike, how do you take the group of people who gave the world reading and writing, language and literature, architecture and engineering, mathematics and medicine, science and technology, how do you take that group of people and convince them that they're nothing but a race of pimps, players, criminals, and thugs? Ashe? Disconnected and dislocated from culture. And that's why Recipient says trauma in a people over time can look like culture. Somebody say break that down. Trauma in a people over time can look like culture. So some people say, oh, academic underachievement, oh, that's just part of their culture. No, it's not. That's trauma in a people over time looking like culture. Ashe? Oh, violence and criminality, that's just a part of their culture. No, the hell it's not. That's trauma in a people looking like culture. Apathy, lack of determination, rundown neighborhoods, mass incarceration. That is not our culture. That is trauma in a people, unaddressed trauma, looking like culture. Ashe? My brother and colleague, Principal Kafeli, says lacking cultural competence is equivalent to teaching a subject you know absolutely nothing about. And so we have to be culturally conscious and culturally competent. Consciousness is mindset. Point to your head. Point to your head. Consciousness is what? Mindset. Competence is skill set. Consciousness is what? Mindset. Competence is skill set. There was times I had the consciousness, but I didn't have the competence. There was times that I had the mindset, but I didn't have the skill set. There were other times I had the skill set, but not the cultural and social consciousness. Ashe? It's not one or the other, it's both and. So as we go a little bit further, I want you to be thinking about this because you need to discuss this with your team when you get back to your school. What is your aha based on the things that I'm sharing with you this morning? Ashe? So there are 3 quick things I want to run through with you that we must change if we're going to transform the lives of our students. The first one is our mentality. Everybody say mentality. Would you raise your hand if you have ever heard teachers talk bad about students? And leaders, right? Put your hand up if you've heard that. Put your other hand up if you've seen more than one person talking bad about our children. Now remember what I said, those who think our children can't be reached have never seen a master teacher teach. Ashe? Dr. Naeem Akbar tells us the first function of education is to provide identity. Everybody say identity. And I add to that, identity determines activity. Who you think you are determines what you will do. But several years ago, I was logging into my email account, and the news headline of the day came up with this picture. And it said, identity theft is the fastest growing crime in America. Let me see a show of hands. How many of you all have experienced or know somebody who's experienced identity theft before? Right? It can be devastating. Somebody just drains your bank account. You have responsibilities and obligations, and it can take time to deal with that. And I've been a victim of that before. But in the process, what I learned is that identity theft is when someone steals your personal information, uses that to gain access to your resources, and the victim becomes confused, angry, and disillusioned. What I learned in the process is that we have experienced, and our children have experienced, what I call cultural identity theft. Cultural identity theft. What is that? That's the process of stealing a people's story, perspective, history of accomplishments and achievement, and replacing it with a false narrative of inferiority. I asked you before, how do you take the group of people who gave the world reading and writing and language and literature and architecture and engineering and mathematics and medicine, science and technology, how do you take that group of people and convince them that they're nothing but a race of pimps, players, criminals, and thugs? I know that our children are the descendants of kings and queens and nobles, but they've been taught to see themselves as niggas and bitches. And even celebrated. Ashe? Can we keep it real? Permission to keep it real this morning. Ashe? And so we have to understand, my advisor and elder, Dr. Joyce King, said, Chike, it's not just identity theft, it's identity replacement. And in America, you can get paid big money to act like these images. Ashe? And do these images show up in the schoolhouse? Yes or yes? Okay. Just wanted to be sure. But then not only that, what does it lead to? Class, what does it lead to? Cultural confusion. It makes black children think that this is what it means to be black. It makes white people think this is what it means to be black. Asian, Hispanic, Native American, all begin to think this is what it means to be black. But the worst part is when black children think that this is what it means to be black. Ashe? But we have the power to do something about that in the classroom and in the school. Dr. Hilliard said, today the formal education of most people of African ancestry is usually accomplished in systems that take us far away from ourselves. Far away from ourselves. And that's why I like to say education is identity restoration. One more time, education is identity restoration. Am I flipping too fast? I see y'all getting the pictures, and I'm glad that you're getting them. Make sure you post this to social media, because do other people need to know this? Okay? Education is identity restoration. Whatever you think you're teaching, science, math, social studies, language arts, no, you're teaching identity restoration first. And once you teach that first and infuse that into what you're doing, they will learn the lesson of your particular discipline so much better. Ashe? There's an African proverb that says, if the wise village elders don't teach the youth, the village idiots most certainly will. And the village idiots are busy 24/7, and they're much more technologically savvy than you. Ashe? And they're more committed than some of us. So the question is, says, if the wise village elders don't teach the youth, the village idiots most certainly will. I now, in case you didn't know, I now anoint and appoint each and every one of you as a village elder. Ashe? But check this out. If the youth are not properly initiated into the village, they will burn it down just to feel the warmth. Y'all ever seen some children tear up some stuff? I'm talking about tear up some stuff that was designed specifically for them. If the youth are not properly initiated into the village, they will burn it down just to feel the warmth. Ashe? As we go a little bit further, see, this is what happens if we don't act. This is what happens if we don't act. And I don't know about you, but I've seen enough of this right here. Raise your hand if you've seen enough of this right here. And if you've seen enough of that right there, then I need for you to understand that you are the critical mediating factor in eradicating this. Because few things can do what one great teacher can. Ashe? One great teacher can transform the trajectory of a child's life. And Dr. Hilliard says the only thing standing between us and excellence is our beliefs. Do you believe that we can reach our children? Go ahead and scan this QR code real quick. I'd like to stay in touch with you. Scan the QR code and you can put in your information a little bit later. But what I do is a couple times a month, I send out a teacher transformation tip and a leadership strategy and let you know where I am in the country. So go ahead and scan that, and I would love to stay in contact with you. So the first thing we have to change is our mentality. The second thing is our methods. Everybody say methods. Dr. Hilliard tells us that any approach to educating black teachers and any teachers who will work to transform black students must take into account two realities. Everybody say two realities. The African cultural tradition, number one, and the political and economic environment within which those people of African descent are situated, especially for the last 4 centuries. Ashe? Those two things we must infuse into our teaching in order to reach our children. Ashe? And somebody who does such a magnificent job of that is my close friend and colleague, Kobe Wilkerson. This brother is amazing. Imagine this now. You come... everything, but you know, you dress so nice because he's in a suit and everything, and that's why they liked you. And he said, no, check the method. Turn to your neighbor and say, check the method. So the next time he went to do it, he took the tie off. He kept the suit coat on and the shirt and kept the tie off, but they were still like, oh, you look so nice, and the children like you and everything. He said, no, check the method. Turn to your neighbor and say, check the method. So then he took the suit coat off, and still they just wasn't quite locked in on what he was doing. They were locked in on how he looked. Ashe? So finally he said, you know what? I'm just going to go into these schools in jeans and sneakers and a hat. because I want them to focus on the method. Check, everybody say check the method. And what this brother does with more than 200 students at a time, raising reading and math scores is second to none. Ashe, you got to check him out. It's the method. It's the method that we have to examine. And so if you want to learn more about that method, I want you to scan this QR code, because in a couple weeks we'll be doing an online literacy and math masterclass. Scan that, and you can join us for that. But I want you to be clear about that the methods make all the difference in the world. As we go a little bit further, the third thing that we have to look at is our materials. Everybody say materials. When we examine our materials, I have to ask you the question, who are the models of intellectual authority in your classroom and in your school? I'll never forget, I was invited to a school district further up north. And they asked me to come in and do to speak to the students during the day, then do professional development with the staff after school, and then do a parent power presentation in the evening. I said, no problem. So as soon as I get in the school, I am perplexed. I'm confused. Because the school is 60% African American, 40% Hispanic, but as I'm looking around at the walls, I don't see anything that reflects the children in the seats. Ashe? And so you have to understand, we have to create a climate of transformation. So we've developed the Black History poster pack. We've developed the African Proverbs poster pack. We've developed the multicultural poster pack to get teachers started on this journey. We have a few of them with us today. We have to ask the question, whose values are we reinforcing by what we have or don't have on the walls? Ashe? Later on today at 11:15 in this room, I'm going to be doing a presentation called How to Create a Reading Revolution in Your Classroom and School. And I hope that you'll join us for that, because the literacy scores must come up. Ashe? Let me see if I can share with you what a difference culturally relevant and responsive teaching makes. One year in particular, when I was a reading specialist, and all of my students had not passed the state test in reading. And so I had a particular young man in my class. His name was Xavier. And man, Xavier was something else, y'all. Xavier wouldn't take anything seriously. And he was constantly disrupting class. And I could move his seat. He might have been sitting over here, and all of a sudden it's loud over here. And it's quiet over here. I move his seat over here. Now he done set it off over here. I move him next to me. Still same thing. I take him out in the hall. I fuss at him. Same thing. I try to reason with him peacefully, calmly. Same thing. I just couldn't get through to Xavier. Interesting thing happened. I had him in 7th grade. At the beginning of the next year, his 8th grade year, who's coming around the corner on the first day of school? Xavier. And you know there's some students, you don't even have to say their last name, right? Everybody in the school knows them, right? He comes around the corner. Hey, Mr. Akua, how you doing? I say, hey, man, how you doing? How was your summer? Give him a handshake and how was your summer? We talk for a few minutes, and then I say, oh, man, bell's about to ring, man. You better get to class. He said, oh, this is my class. I said, oh, hell no. No. I didn't say that. Woe unto me if I said what was going on in my head. I didn't say it out loud, but that's what I was thinking. And so I was like, no, bro, you had the Akua experience last year. This ain't your class this year. He said, yes, it is. He takes out his schedule. Look, here's my name. There's your name. I'm back. I was like, oh, damn, what in the world? I let him in the classroom, but right after class was over, I made a beeline to the assistant principal's office. I said, Dr. Alexander, there's been a mistake. There's been a problem. She said, what's the problem, Mr. Akua? I said, you put Xavier in my class again this year. She said, yeah, he didn't pass the state test in reading. He has to have your class again this year. I said, damn. I didn't say that out loud. I'm like, Lord, what am I going to do with Xavier? Okay. So I need a plan. I went to the Lord for a plan on this one. But something interesting happened. Do y'all have Red Ribbon Week in your school district? Y'all have Red Ribbon Week? Drug Awareness Week? I must confess, I hated Red Ribbon Week because it didn't deal with the realities of how drugs and guns and violence get into our communities and how other people profit from that, Ashe. But this particular year, I decided to do something a little different, and I shared a video, y'all may remember, many years ago when the talk show host, Montel Williams, interviewed the drug kingpin, Rick Ross. Not the rapper Rick Ross, who named himself after the drug kingpin, Ashe. And in that interview, some interesting things came out. He talked about how much he regretted what he was doing. And he didn't realize the damage he was causing to the community until he saw his own sister strung out and his nieces and nephews out in the street, not properly clothed and bathed and fed, Ashe. And he talked about how he felt like he had sold his own people into slavery. And so whenever I would show a video in class, I would have my students to answer questions. And at the end of the video, we were running out of time, and I told my students, okay, let's stand up for our closing affirmation and put the questions and answers on the corner of my desk, and we'll discuss this tomorrow. And we did our closing affirmation. All the students left except for one. His name was Xavier, and Xavier looked like he had seen a ghost. You see, he said, dang, Mr. Akua, that was deep. I said, what's deep? He said he talked about how his own sister was strung out on drugs. I said, yeah, we've talked about the dangers of pushing poison to your own people or any people. He said, yeah, but his nieces and nephews, they hadn't been fed and weren't properly clothed and bathed. I said, yeah, these are the effects, the cascading effects of drug use and drug abuse and drug selling in our communities. I said, but why is this so deep for you today? We've discussed these things before. He said, well, I've never told anybody this before, but when my mother was pregnant with me, she was strung out. And everybody used to call me a crack baby, so I just act like it. I said, oh, man, you know what that means? He said, no, what? What does that mean? I said, do you want to continue on that path? He said, no, but drugs are still all around me. I said, there are others who have been through this and made it through, and you can too, and I'm here to support you. Ashe? And so he just kind of looked at me, and I said, I can help you through the process. So he shook his head, and he walked out of class. The next day he came to class. I gave him a handshake and a hug, and I whispered 3 magic words into his ear. And those 3 magic words were, break the chains. Break the chains. Turn to your neighbor and say, break the chains. Now, even if anybody else had heard me say that, they wouldn't know what I was referring to, but I had explained to him the day before, break the chains means break the chains of that generational liability. Ashe? That doesn't have to be your reality. And every time, every day I would greet him with those 3 magic words. And when he was with his classmates doing work and I'm circulating the room and I'm walking by and I nudge him on the shoulder, say, 3 magic words. What were those 3 magic words? Break the chains. Every graded paper that he received a letter grade, a number grade, and what? Break the chains. Do you know that Xavier went from being the worst in my class to the first in my class? He went from being the worst student to the best student, leading the student creed every day, keeping other students in check, and yes, he passed the state test at the end of the year. Ashe? Why? Because his education became immediately relevant. But not only that, when I had him in 7th grade, I had a lot of rules for him. But it's been said that rules without relationship equals rebellion. Oh, you might want to write that down. Rules without relationship equals rebellion. When he was in 7th grade, I had rules for him, but I didn't have a relationship. But in 8th grade, I had a relationship that allowed us to uphold the rules. Ashe? And so, brothers and sisters, as I begin to wind down, I want to talk about the type of vision that we must possess as leaders and teachers. I'm an educator. I'm a teacher. I'm a professor. I give tests and exams. Ashe? And I'm going to give you an exam right now to see what you've learned. Here will be the directions for the test. And the purpose is for us to learn to see with a different set of eyes. To learn to see with a different set of eyes. Let's read the directions to the test together, class. 1, 2, 3, read. Okay, so I'm not talking about the circle in the O that you see in the word do or you. Ashe? I'm going to put an image on the screen, and when I do, I'm going to give you 20 seconds of silence to determine how many circles are in the picture. Ashe? Are you ready? I can't hear you. Are you ready? Yes. All right, here we go. How many circles do you see? 20 seconds. Ten seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, let's see. Call out your answers. How many circles? Just call it out. Did we have anybody who saw any circles? Raise your hand. Don't be embarrassed if you saw some circles. It's okay. You saw some. How many circles did you see? How many? 16? They're like, what in the world were you looking at, right? They didn't see what you saw, sister. What's your name, sister? They didn't see what you saw, Letitia. But if they had looked in between the squares the way that you did, at the vertical lines, then some circles would begin to emerge. Uh-oh, wait a minute. And let's see how many circles there are. Let's count them out together. Letitia, you got a free book. Let's make sure Letitia gets a free book. 1, 2, count with me. 3, 4, can't hear you. 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, can't hear you. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Y'all give Letitia a round of applause. Now look, let's check this out. Let's break this down. We got to analyze this test, everybody. We got to analyze this test. You see, those circles represent the potential, the possibilities, the power of excellence and achievement that's within our children. We just haven't been taught to see it in them. And they haven't been taught to see it in themselves. Ashe? But check it out, everybody. We were all looking at the same thing, but we didn't all see the same thing. And that's because looking and seeing are two entirely different processes. Ashe? When I was in high school with that 1.9 GPA, I only had one class that I enjoyed, that I was doing well in, and it was my expository writing class. And I was the only black student in that class, but every week I couldn't wait for Monday. We'd turn in the paper on Friday, get it back graded on Monday. And I would always get one of 3 grades, a 95, a 90, or a 100. What were those grades? A 95, a 90, or a 100. But one day I got my paper back, and it didn't have a grade on it. It just said, "See me." Raise your hand if you ever got one of those before, right? I went up to see the teacher, and I handed him my paper. He said, "You wanted to see me?" He said, "Yes, sir." "Oh, now I remember why I wanted to see you. What does this word mean?" I told him what the word meant. He said, "Well, what does this word mean?" I told him what that word meant. "Well, what does this word mean?" He went through 5 or 6 words. I told him the dictionary definition and the context of how I used it in the paper, but he still looked at me and said, "You didn't write this paper." There was something about his education and socialization that would not allow him to see a child that looked like me to be able to write like that. He didn't know that I would write my first book by the age of 25. He didn't know that I would write 8 books by the age of 35. He didn't know that I would write 13 books by the age of 55. Ashe? He didn't know that I would be in Ebony Magazine and Black Enterprise on radio and television. I don't share this to impress you, but to impress upon you that we must see something more in our children. Ashe? And that they will only be what we see in them to be. We don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. Educators, we must see with a different set of eyes. Our ancestors taught us we have 3 eyes, 2 to look and 1 to see. Ashe? And so as I close, brothers and sisters, this is part of the work that we do at the Teacher Transformation Institute, is helping educators to see with a different set of eyes. Most underperforming students are one leader or teacher away from transformation. Hold up your finger right here. Hold up your index finger. Point to the person next to you and say, are you the one? Come on, ask them, are you the one? Yes. As we close, I'm going to count down from 5, and I want you to stand up to your feet. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I want you to grab your phone and turn the light on. And that light on your phone, and hold it up, because that light represents the inextinguishable light that is within each and every one of us and our students. And I want you to repeat after me: love and light, truth and transformation, healing and harmony, across the nation. Compassion and conviction are the tools for my mission. I open my eyes to see with inner vision. Peace and blessings be unto humanity. The change begins within. The change begins with me. The change begins within. The change begins with me. Ashe. And lastly, there's an African proverb which says, if you dream of moving mountains tomorrow, you must first begin by moving small stones today. Ashe? Ashe? Ashe-o. Thank you all so much. Peace and blessings.
I think we can give him a better round of applause. Was that great? I know I want him to come to my school district. I'm so inspired. So be ready to get a call. I want to officially, if you come back up, sir. We here in NABSE Midwest want to thank you so much, and we want to give you this honorary plaque.
Thank you so much.
For all you mean to us and for supporting us in this endeavor today. Let's give him one more round of applause, you guys.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. With that being said, I'm going to have Mr. Maceo come back up. And if you recall, what time is your session? You said at 11? 11:15. So I anticipate that we'll see many of you there because we need this, do we not? Yes. Okay, and if nothing else, I think the one thing that you should be taking away is that how you see our students and what you inspire into them will make all the difference in the world with their futures. So please, please take his words. Gloria, did you have anything else you wanted to share? All right. With that being said, I think we are done, and you all have a great session.